My 39 male son, nearly adult, Bryce, dated our neighbour, Lana, nearly adult female, for a year. They broke up mid-January for reasons I don't know, but I won't sugarcoat this. I never liked Lana. She always seemed a little unhinged, controlling and aggressive. She's always demanding Bryce's attention, and there were quite a few times when she showed up at our house out of nowhere, whether it was 7 a.m. or 11 p.m, because Bryce wasn't answering his phone, screaming and calling him a cheater when it wasn't like that. The thought of our son getting abused by his girlfriend made us worry so much. My wife and I tried to talk him out of that relationship. We said how it wasn't normal or healthy. We didn't want to force the breakup because we feared Lana would lash out to him, so we tried to do it sneakily. We don't know if it worked, but they ended up breaking up. After he broke up with her, he said that Lana didn't contact him, which was weird because he expected her to go nuts. But I told him that if fate didn't give him anything, he better not tempt it. Now the problem is that we bought my son a car for Christmas, nothing fancy but enough to get him to school, his job and eventually college. He parks it in our driveway outside our home. Ever since the month began, we'd been finding scratches all over the car. We knew Lana was doing it, but since it was minimal, my son decided not to do anything even if we could prove that it was her. We've CCTV. Still, something smelled bad for me, so I decided to switch one of the cameras facing his car directly, just in case. Well, 2 weeks ago we got up and we found my son's car covered in a lot of crap. Paint, glue, feathers, confetti, the door handles were wrecked, flat tires, paint all over the windows. You get the picture. Bryce and my wife were so distraught, so we called the police and I handed the CCTV that showed Lana and her brother, 23, destroying my son's car. We pressed charges and needless to say, Lana's brother went straight to jail. But since she's still a minor, her parents wanted to make a deal, but I refused. I don't think she should get a way out. Before the police were here, she laughed her butt off trying to play it cool. If she thought this was funny, then she's old enough to face the consequences. My wife and I want to stand our ground. They said they'd buy my son a better car and put Lana on therapy, but it's not enough. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. This is the wake-up call Lana, her brother and her parents need. I'd say you're doing her a favour by standing your ground. Another wake-up call would be to get the son some therapy to identify and avoid these types of relationships in the future. A whole year of this has to have damaged his psyche, poor kid. In this day and age, with all of the Ring and security cameras that people have, how in the heck did she and her brother think they'd get away with destroying your son's car? That just seems idiotic to me. So her parents are trying to buy her way out of trouble. You're under no obligation to accept their offer. In the long run, it's probably better for their daughter if you don't. She needs to face the consequences of her actions. Otherwise, she'll end up in jail just like her brother. I wonder if you could file a civil suit to recoup the cost of the car she destroyed. She should be ordered to pay what the car is worth, if it's considered totaled or the cost of the repairs. Lana needs therapy whether or not charges get pressed. I understand wanting to protect your kid, but this is a felony, and she's old enough to know right from wrong. It's not like she'd Vaseline the door handles or use Saran wrap. She did real damage, and her adult brother helped. These parents should have had them both in therapy before it got this far because there's no way this is the first crazy incident with them. She isn't ready for therapy. Therapy is a long way off for her. She needs discipline before she can take any other form of help seriously. Also, to me, accepting anything from them or sweeping it under the rug would risk showing your son that if they give gifts or say they'll never do it again, it makes it okay and could lead to abuse in the future. I'm glad your son is not in that relationship anymore because, honestly, she's a monster. So my family is kind of a mess. What you need to know for this is that both my dad and grandpa had kids young, so I'm a teenager, my dad is 37, and I think grandpa is somewhere in his late 50s. My grandparents divorced when I was a kid, and 2 years later grandpa remarried. His new wife, who's younger than my dad, brought a kid to the marriage, and suddenly I had a step-uncle. Let's just call him Brian. When we first met, the kid was like 4 or something. I thought it would be funny to call him Uncle Brian because of the ridiculousness of having an uncle so much younger than me. It was a joke and he liked it, so I kept calling him that. A couple of years later and we find out that he's not my step-uncle but my half-uncle. Grandpa apparently had a second family he managed to hide, even through the divorce, and tried to pass his new wife off as someone he'd met just after separating. Cue big drama, messy fighting. I didn't see Grandpa and his new family for more than a year. He's only just started patching things up between the rest of the family, so I only just met my Brian again. He's become a little idiot. He's needy, whiny, and throws tantrums all the time. I just try to ignore him, but his mom spoils him, so I don't think he'll get better anytime soon. None of this would be a problem except when my grandpa was trying to patch things up, he moved closer to my family, and now Brian and I go to the same school. It's a K-12, and although I don't see him during the day, we sometimes run into each other after school. I've got a club and he's in the after-school childcare thing. When we see each other, he keeps wanting me to call him Uncle Brian, and I keep telling him no. He threw one of his tantrums at school the other day, saying I had to call him Uncle Brian. He's my uncle, and that means I have to do what he says. I told him no, I didn't, and that I'm tired of him being a whiny brat. I'm older than him, which means he has to do what I say. He didn't listen and kept saying I had to call him uncle. We ended up making a bit of a scene, and word got back to our families, and Brian's mom said if it meant so much to him that I should just call him uncle. I said I'm not doing that. Grandpa sided with her, and my dad hasn't said anything directly, but I think he wants me to do it just to keep the peace. But it's stupid. He's a kid, and calling him Uncle Brian just because he's whining that I have to do it is demeaning, especially at school. When he was younger, it was a joke that I chose to participate in, and not something that was forced on me. But this is different. Am I the idiot if I stand my ground on this? I can't stop laughing at this kid thinking you should call him uncle. This is the most ridiculous thing I have ever read. Is this really the hill your family wants to die on? It's so stupid. Not the idiot, OP. Why is your entire family behaving like toddlers? It's up to you how you want to handle this. Personally, I'd have fun with it. Really exaggerate the uncle thing. Call him King Uncle Brian I, leader of the playground and smiter of enemies. Every single time you have to address him. But that's because I'm extremely petty, LMAO. Malicious compliance. But you are within your rights and not the idiot for standing your ground. Not the idiot, I'm so sorry, but this is hilarious. The kid is clearly on a power trip and is used to getting what he wants. The kid is being a brat, and giving him will only contribute to the behavior, which his mom obviously is in favor of because she's the one enabling it. Indulging his tantrums is their first mistake. Trying to make everyone else follow suit is just doubling down on the BS. Basically, your grandfather's wife is invested in raising an idiot. That's their problem. You are not obligated to allow them to make it yours. I, 34 years old, have a 5-year-old daughter. My wife is deceased and my in-laws are my only supporters. Some days ago, I had an appointment with the dentist and the babysitter who was supposed to watch my daughter called and cancelled. I didn't know what to do, so I called my brother-in-law asking if he would watch his niece till I got back from the appointment. He said he wasn't sure since he had a couple of tutoring sessions to get done. So I told him to skip them, drop my daughter off at his apartment, and then left. When I came back to pick her up in the evening, brother-in-law asked me to pay him for watching my daughter for 4 hours. I was taken aback and asked if he was serious. He reminded me that he had 2 tutoring sessions that he had to cancel last minute, and since I pushed him to stay with my daughter and watch her, I need to pay him. I refused and said he was somewhat greedy and an opportunist, even to think sitting his niece would grant him easy money. He said it wasn't easy money, but time wasted in his very busy schedule. We argued and I left with my daughter. He called my in-laws who said he was right and I should have paid him for his time and been appreciative of his efforts. I told them I didn't expect him to ask for money, but they said it's what I do with babysitters. Well, yes, but he's family and the last thing I expect from him is to ask for money for staying with his niece. Besides that, I had an emergency and couldn't miss the appointment knowing how hard it is to get another one. He's still insisting on being paid and I keep refusing. I think he's being ridiculous at this rate, but I don't know. It all seems to be a misunderstanding. Say I did pay him, this would set the precedence for him to keep expecting money every time. Am I the idiot for not paying him? I forced my brother-in-law to cancel 2 tutoring sessions, losing him money to make him watch my child. Then, instead of offering to cover the money he lost, I refused because family is free labor, even when you inconvenience them. OP, I fixed it for you. You are the idiot. If I were him, I'd never sit for you again. You are the idiot. You lost me when you told me he had to tutor and you told him to skip that. Like what? Now, I never charge for babysitting my family, but I would also not have tolerated someone telling me to change my plans last minute to accommodate their emergency. He said he couldn't watch her. You dumped her on him anyway. He had to cancel paid work. He's not trying to profit from you. He's trying to recoup his losses. Wow, OP, pay the man and never dump your daughter on someone that hasn't agreed to care for her. That is irresponsible and should result in a call to CPS. Sorry about your wife, but you aren't doing this right at all. He cancelled paying clients to watch your kid, so he lost his pay to cover your problem. And in addition, this harms his reputation as a reliable tutor. You owe him double. Some backstory. I, 19 female, moved in with my roommate, 20 female, last year, and she has a very young daughter called Ella, not her real name. When we first moved in together, she took care of Ella completely, but after a month or so, she started asking if I could watch her while she was gone. Ella's a good kid, so I said yes. At first, I was watching her once every week, but now I'm paying to buy her new clothes. My roommate says the one she has fit her, but they literally don't and have holes in them. I pick her up from daycare and take care of her after work. My roommate used to work, but she got fired after missing too many shifts now. She gets money from whatever boyfriend she has and is never home. I work and go to school while taking care of Ella. The issue. 3 days ago I came home and I saw Ella but no roommate. I asked Ella where her mom was and she said she just left with the man, so I know she left with a boyfriend and left Ella home alone for who knows how long. I called and texted my roommate who knows how many times and all I get is radio silence. I had to call in sick at work because I didn't have anyone to watch Ella and then pay for a babysitter as I had an important class I couldn't miss yesterday. To calm down, I took Ella and me to the park and got us ice cream, and when I came back, my roommate was home drunk and happy as ever. I put Ella to bed, took my roommate outside, and basically let her have it. I called her a horrible mother for leaving her daughter home alone when she could have gotten hurt or worse. I said she was irresponsible not to pick up her phone when there could have been an emergency or just because it's her kid. She could answer the phone regardless. She yelled at me, then stormed off crying, and I haven't seen her since. I admit I was cruel, but I was worried sick and incredibly stressed. 3 days she didn't check her phone. She sent me a text earlier saying I was deeply hurtful and she would be staying with her boyfriend for a while. She said to tell Ella she loves her. I feel like I'm a royal idiot. I know my roommate's had a hard life. The last thing she needs is me yelling at her. I feel justified, but I was cruel and should have kept my cool, so am I the idiot? Not the idiot. She just proved you right about not caring for her kid. She just left her with you to go be with her boyfriend? Jesus. Calling Child Protective Services is the next step in my opinion because this is neglect. And Ella doesn't deserve this at all. She's lucky you're there because she sure as heck hasn't got a mother figure otherwise. The OP hasn't done this already is borderline everyone's the idiot. The arrangement you have with your roommate is bonkers, OP. You should absolutely call CPS, the cops, and either move or evict the roommate. That you think this is at all reasonable, which you clearly do to some extent, or else it would not be happening, is shocking and horrific. That poor kid. Wait, are you saying she took off for 3 days and left her daughter with you? Do I understand that correctly? And now she's left again to be with her boyfriend while you're left to take care of Ella again? What a horrible mother! OP, I say this with all possible respect. The period for thinking about your roommate and her well-being is over. You need to do what's best for Ella at this point, and that involves the authorities. Update. I've contacted CPS. Thank you everyone for your judgments, even the hard ones. I really appreciate it. My young teen is having severe behavior issues. I have him in therapy for this, and he and I also attend therapy. Nothing is working. He cusses at me, he trashes the house if he doesn't get his way, he makes threats against me. I admit that I'm not a perfect mother, but he is fed, he lives in a nice and clean home, he has material possessions, and I try and spend as much time with him as I can after work on weekends. I try to plan activities for him and me. He's uninterested in anything if he doesn't want to do it, and all he wants to do is play video games and eat junk food. I limit his gaming time to do homework, chores, reading a book, or just going outside and getting fresh air, and I keep very little junk food in the house or he'll eat them all. When he doesn't get his own way, he throws actual tantrums and trashes the house, primarily my stuff. He likes to punish me. Obviously therapy isn't working, but I'm hopeful that we'll get there if I keep trying therapies and doctors and treatments. On the 17th, he wanted to have cake and soda for breakfast. I said no and offered him cereal, toast, eggs and sausage, but unequivocally no to junk food. He accepted cereal, but while I was in my room getting ready for work, He hurled it at the wall, flipped the table and broke some dishes. I made him clean it up and made him some toast to eat in the car since we were both now running late. He threw the toast out of the window on the highway and demanded I stop at Burger King. I told him no and said he'd made his choice and now he could wait until lunch. I relented in a few minutes and gave him one of the protein bars I kept in my purse and gave him money to get milk from the cafeteria. After work, a couple of days later, I got a visit from CPS, who said I'd been reported for starving and neglecting my son. I spent probably 4 hours with the agent and he finally told me it was a teacher at my son's school because my son told her that I was starving him. Based on the dates, I figured out what happened and told the CPS agent. I'm in the clear, but the investigation will now always be on my record. I'm now terrified to say anything of any sort to my son because what would he do next when he gets mad at me? My ex and his wife and I are very close, and when I told them, my ex suggested our son come live with them for a while. They live on a farm and they're very strict and no nonsense, don't have TV, limit internet for their children and believe in hard work. Their young children help do farm chores, and my ex said my son would do the same. I think that sounds like a good idea. Maybe some distance would help my son and me. He started sobbing and begged not to move in with them when we told him this. He said they wouldn't let him play his games, and his dad's farm is too far from town for his friends to come to visit. Now he's not speaking to me. Am I the idiot if I still sent him? Not the idiot. It sounds like you're doing everything right, but it's not helping. You have to shake things up. And I think you've also earned the break. You are not giving up on your son. You're doing him a favor. Don't beat yourself up. You're a human. Not the idiot. Don't make this about you and how you're viewed. Your son needs help, and what you're currently doing isn't really working. Get him to his father's place, try that out for 6 months to a year. Make it a deal that you're not going to take him out early. Signs of progress are great, but don't cut it short. And when your son is gone, you take time to get yourself into therapy if you're not already. You don't want him coming back and reversing because things have changed back to how they were and he has a lack of structure. OP, ship him off and send him out. He doesn't get to report you to CPS for not giving him Burger King, constantly destroying your house, and then crying that he's sorry. A few years of hard work and discipline should do wonders for him. It's either that or you'll be the next thing he tries to break.